Okay, so what we want to discuss today is the preparation for Tisha B'Av, because Tisha B'Av doesn't come in a vacuum. Like we explained a few shiurim ago, that when it comes to regular Avelus, it starts off with a very heavy morning, and then it trickles down to a lower level of, till we wean it off after a full year. When it comes to Tisha B'Av, there's actually a build up. There's the 3 weeks, that's phase number one, and then there is the Shavua, there is the Tishat Hayamim, the 9 days, which are starting tonight. And we're going to see in just a few minutes, what does that mean that it's starting tonight? And then there's Shavua Shechaba, which starts on Sunday or Motzei Shabbos. And then there's Erev Tisha B'Av, and then there's Tisha B'Av itself. And then there's Motzei Tisha B'Av. So there's a lot of different stages that get different halachos when it comes to how do we behave and how do we act. And the reason we have that in Judaism is that our actions actually create a feeling and an ambiance, and the fact that we're going to refrain from doing certain actions is going to put in our mind, it's amazing how it works, the framework and the understanding of what's going on. And this is the tkufa that is called Bein HaMetzarim, between the days of affliction. It's 21 days, it's the 3 weeks, and it's something that is very nogea to halacha. The weeks that we've just had until now actually don't appear anywhere in the Gemara. The Gemara does not speak about the 3 weeks. It doesn't appear anywhere in the Gemara. The first time we have it in the Kobo. He brings B'Shem Rabbeinu Usher, that you know who started the concept of the 3 weeks? It was the Nashim. It was the women who really felt the Churban. They're the ones who refrained from themselves from eating meat and drinking wine during the days of the 3 weeks because of their feeling and mourning over Yerushalayim. The Torah brings this down also as the Prushim. It was individuals who used to refrain from eating meat and drinking wine. And it's, the Shulchan Aruch almost, he doesn't pass in the 3 weeks at all. Only the Ramah is the one who brings this down. The Shulchan Aruch brings down maybe not to make a shechiyanu on a new fruit or on a new malbush, even though we're not knowing like that. The Mishnah Berurah brings down the grub, but the Ramah is the one who pretty much instituted all of the things of the 3 weeks, the things that we refrain from, not to get married, not to get a haircut. He also brings down maybe not to do laundry, which we're going to see is really get to the Shavua Shechabos. So anyways, the 3 weeks is something that's not brought down in the Gemara. What is brought down in the Gemara? It's the 9 days. Mishenichnas Av Mima'atim Besimcha. When the month of Av comes in, that's when we start being Mima'et Besimcha. And that's the Gemara in Tainis Daf Chavav. And what does that mean to be Memait in Simcha? So what I want to spend today is just a few minutes. It's going to be a different type of shir, but to go over some of the halachos that start tonight in just 2 hours from now, or 3 hours from now, around 8 o'clock, is when the 9 days begin. And that means that we have a few halachos. Maybe by the end of this year, you'll all go running to do your last wash or to put on some freshly laundered clothing that you haven't worn yet. So just beware. So when it comes to the 9 days, one of the interesting halachos that I found fascinating in the Shulchan Aruch is that he brings down that the women used to not weave. They used to not do the sheti, shti va'erev. I don't know how you say it in English. When you weave, you have the shti and you have the erev, when they crisscross. So I'm not sure how you say the shti versus the erev. It's like the different direction. So they used to not weave the shti in any of their sewing. Why? Because it reminds them of the even hashtiya. The dome of the rock is called the dome of the rock because it sits over a rock, which is the bedrock of Hara Moriah, which is the cornerstone, the foundation stone of this world. It's called shtiya milashon tashtit, which is like the foundation in which a building is built on. So they used to not weave, and therefore the halacha, the loom in weaving. Okay, thank you, Dina. Is that this or that? I don't know. The loom is the actual machine. Okay, I don't know which direction it goes. So they used to not weave, and in fact, the halacha comes out of there is that we do not sew new clothes. I know many of you are involved in sewing, and we're sewing clothes for our grandchildren and for our children and for the einaklach and a new kippah for the new baby. So during the 9 days, it's brought down. Oh, waft and weft. Shirley March. Okay, I'm learning so much from the I told this to Henry in the morning in the Gemara here, from the British Commonwealth members of our shul are teaching me English. Okay, so the Shti and Erev is the waft and the weft. Thank you, Shirley. And yes, the waft and the weft. And so some of you sow, but it's brought down in halacha. The Shulchan Aruch brings this down, and he says that it's better not to sow, that we don't sow on Tisha B'Av. It's brought down in Seif Zayin and Ches, and he says Nashi denagi delo mishtei perush l'sad l'arachutin shel olchin le'arko shel beged v'uloshen o b'shti o b'erev amra midiyayev av minhaga, meaning they're knowing not to sow on during the 9 days, and therefore I know my wife was looking for a dress for the wedding that we're going to attend, her sister's wedding, and the seamstress told her if we want to make any alterations, it needs to be before the 9 days, because she, as a seamstress, is makbid, a frum lady, to not sew anything during the 9 days. And I was very happy to hear that, and therefore that pushed things along. You know how these dresses can take a while. So that's one halacha that is nogea l'maisa. But let's discuss something that is nogea to all of us, which is basar and wine, warp and weft. Okay, corrected Ellie, another British member. The warp and the weft, and Shirley agrees. Okay, thank you. So when it comes to meat and wine. So this is brought down as a din in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah in Tainis Daf Chavav. We're going to get to that in our Gemara here. And the truth is, though, in the Mishnah in Tainis, the only time that there's a restriction for eating meat and drinking wine is on the meal before Tisha B'Av. Suda Mafsekis. That's when it's brought down in the Mishnah to not eat meat and not drink wine. And the reason for that is that number one, basar and yain is considered something that gives us joy. It's mesameachas. You want to celebrate an anniversary, you go to a fancy restaurant, and if you're not vegetarian, you'll go to a nice steak restaurant, because that's nice. That's fancy. You're eating a piece of steak and drinking a cup of wine. We do it at our parties, when you go to a gala dinner, when you go to a wedding, when you go to a Shabbos table. It's a way of celebrating, and therefore we don't do it on Erev Tisha B'Av, according to the Mishnah. Another reason is that after Churban Abayis, they wanted actually to abolish eating meat and drinking wine, because that was something that was used for korbanos, and you used to eat the meat and drink the wine, but it was holy. It was something that was brought on the Mizbeach, and the wine had nisuch hayayin. And the moment we don't have korbanos anymore, they wanted to abolish it entirely. They realized that this is something that the tzibur can't actually live with the whole year without having it. But so they instituted to abolish it during the days of mourning. And since the days of mourning start on Rosh Chodesh Av, so it was actually extended in halacha, not just for Erev Tisha B'Av, but for the entire 9 days. Now, there is a machlokes between the Sfardim and the Ashkenazim. When do the 9 days start? Specifically in reference to the laws of eating meat and drinking wine. According to the Ashkenazim, and it's passing like this in the Mishnah Brura, it starts tonight, meaning already Rosh Chodesh is the first day of the 9 days, and we don't eat meat and we don't drink wine. So if you have any leftovers from Shabbos and you want to make sure that it won't go to waste and you're not going to put it back in the freezer, you want to eat your meat and drink your wine before sunset today, before Shkia, or let's push it even before Marv. Okay, so by 7:45, you want to finish eating your meaty supper tonight. According to the Sfardim, though, they actually do not apply that for Rosh Chodesh itself. They say that Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh, and therefore you're allowed to eat meat and drink wine until tomorrow at nightfall. The Mekubalim, the Arizal says it already starts today. So that's how even a lot of the Sfardim who are Noeg al Pi Kabbalah, so they even end that today as well. So the reasoning, again, is because of we want to reduce our simcha, and because of the korbanos, because of Avelis, and therefore we actually do not, even according to the Sfardim, who are more machmir on things Shavuot Shechavo, they don't eat meat and drink wine during this week. So the fact that many of the restaurants closed down is a reason of mourning for many different reasons, parnasa for people. But when it comes to, for meat and wine, it's nogea even right now. The Yehudei Teiman, I saw brought down, the Yemenites, they're knowing only to be makbid the day before Tisha B'Av, meaning the Erev Tisha B'Av, but until then they do eat meat and drink wine. I don't know if any of you are Yemenite in our shul, but there are Yemenite shuls right around the corner in Nachlaot. Now, what about, some people asked me, my wife actually asked me, what about soup broth? Or what about potatoes that were cooked with the meat together? And now you're not going to eat the meat and you just want to eat the potatoes. So we're knowing to be machmir. It's brought down like this in halacha as well. The Mishnah Berurah brings this down, that we do not eat a tavshil of basar as well. That gives us the flavoring of basar. We don't eat that as well because it has the flavor of basar. There's no isser to use fleishik dishes. However, we are not going to eat something that was cooked with basar, and now we have just the potatoes left over. It's better to be machmir on that. However, there is an exception. In this year, a lot of the mefarshim brought this down. That's somebody who's sick, somebody who's a chola, even if he's chola a little bit, somebody is pregnant, or if somebody is nursing, and it's important for her for some reason to have meat. And this might be true for someone who was sick with coronavirus, and we know that you become fatigued for quite a while after, and the recovery process is relatively long, that you are allowed to eat meat to give you the strength, to give you the iron, to give you that energy back. And therefore, you're allowed to do it. The issue is for this coming Shabbos. This coming Shabbos is Shabbat Chazon. Are you allowed to eat meat on Shabbos? That's for sure, yes. Are you allowed to drink wine? Yes. There's no Avelis on Shabbos. We're going to get to that when it comes to the clothing as well. However, Motzei Shabbos, we make Havdalah. Who drinks the Havdalah? Now, drinking the wine on Motzei Shabbos is now no longer Shabbos, and it's Shavua Shechalbo. Not only is it the 9 days, it's the Shavua Shechalbo. So do you drink or do you not drink? So the din is that you're allowed to drink the wine. The Sfardim are knowing like that. Some of the Ashkenazim are knowing like that. However, it is brought down in the Mishnah Berurah that if there is a katan around, if there's a young child around, it's better to give him, that he's able to have kavanah, better to give him to drink the wine rather than you drinking the wine. So if you're home alone and you don't have any katan around, right? We've been in isolation for quite some time, and we haven't got a chance to see our grandchildren. So then you're allowed to make havdalah on wine or on grape juice, and there's no real difference between wine or grape juice, and you're allowed to drink it. Some say, oh, it's a good opportunity to make it on beer or to make it another thing. I think it's better to make a bor pri agafen rather than making a shahakol. It is better to make it on wine and to drink a revius. You don't need to drink more than that. And then your yotzei, the mitzvah of Havdalah, this coming Motzei Shabbos, without a problem. On Shabbos, you're allowed to eat everything. Some say that ladies, if you want to taste the chulent before Shabbos, if you're making chicken soup and you want to taste the chicken soup, that it's good, that it doesn't need any more salt, you're allowed to do that on Erev Shabbos as well. You're allowed to taste a little bit in your preparation for the thing. And anytime we have a Sudas mitzvah, also you're allowed to eat meat and drink wine. And therefore, the custom became that if somebody has a Sudas mitzvah of a siyum, making a siyum, is that he's going to also be able to eat meat and drink wine. They do say one should not try to make a siyum specifically during the 9 days. I know growing up in the Jewish day camps, so it was always like a big to-do, like who's going to make a siyum? We want to give a barbecue to everyone. And suddenly, the day of the siyum, it's like the biggest meat fest ever because you're not allowed to have meat. And suddenly somebody made a siyum. So that seems to be inappropriate. I remember my father never ate meat on those siyumim. He never was in favor of those siyumim. But if somebody actually finished something, if the siyum of the daf yomi ends up being during the 9 days, you make a siyum, you make a suda, it's a sudas mitzvah, and one is allowed to eat meat and drink wine. Shiputzim, another halacha. You want to fix something, you want to make shiputzim in your apartment. One should not be making shiputzim, construction work in his apartment. It's brought down in the halacha. You're not supposed to have binyan of netiya, binyan of simcha. I do have a question, which I'm not 100% sure about. What happened if you're building a house and you're nowhere near it, and they're doing a construction job for a year, are they allowed to work during the 9 days? I want to look that up. I don't know what the halacha is, but I do know that in your house, when you're making shiputzim, one should not be making shiputzim during the 9 days. Construction workers should not be working during the 9 days in people's houses to fix it. Even in a guy's house, you shouldn't be doing it unless it's something that like was committed and you didn't finish your job on time and you have to finish it by a specific time. So then a person needs to finish it. But in general, we don't do a binyan of simcha during the 9 days. Also, we don't do business interactions, which means buying new things. I mean, we've been in quarantine and therefore not buying so many new things. But the 9 days is something that we do not buy new clothes. We definitely don't wear new clothes. We're going to get to that in 1 second. But also, one should not be ordering something new. I'm going back to my wife's dress for the wedding. So we were makbid to get it before and not ordering something from the tailor before the 9 days to pick it up after the 9 days. That's the wrong thing to do. Also, moving into a new apartment, right? If somebody wants to move into a new apartment, renting something new, it's best to do it before the 9 days. Mrs. Herman here on the call, she moved last week, and therefore it was before the 9 days, which was a good move. It's better not to move during the 9 days because there's a new simcha that comes when somebody moves into the only thing that you could buy are things that are davar avid. Let's say you see a sale that won't come back, and there's a specific sale right now, so then you're allowed to buy. Or if you're buying something that you need actually for the 9 days, somebody asked me 1 year that they didn't have Tisha B'Av shoes. It's either going barefoot or wearing leather shoes, and their sneakers had leather on it. They didn't have Tisha B'Av shoes. So I told them, you're allowed to buy new Tisha B'Av shoes because it's not a shoe that's giving you simcha. You're doing it actually for the Avelus, and one would be allowed to buy. Laundry. Okay, we're continuing in the halacha. When it comes to laundry, what's the din? This is a big question, especially here in the summer, especially in the Middle East. What do we do when it comes to laundry? Are we allowed to have laundry, or are we not allowed to do laundry? So over there, the Gemara in Tainus also brings down that one of the expressions of avelut, of showing our mourning, is the fact that we are not washing our clothes. The fact that we're not going to be fresh and as refreshed as we normally are is a sign of our mourning, of our avelus, and therefore we refrain from doing laundry during the 9 days. Even if it's to launder things so that we should wear them after the 9 days, we try to stay away from that and not to do laundry during the 9 days. And just like you're not allowed to do laundry, you're also not allowed to wear freshly laundered clothing. So last night, I washed a few of my shirts, and every few hours today, I've been changing my shirt and wearing it. I wore one shirt to Shachris, and then I gave a shear and I wore another shirt. And then I ran out to have my chavrusa, and I wore another shirt, and now I'm wearing my fourth shirt of the day because I'm trying to wear my shirts before Rosh Chodesh. This way they're not freshly laundered. Not only are they not washed during the 9 days, but they're also they've been used a little bit. Now, what happens if somebody did not use them a little bit and they are 100% freshly laundered? The eitzah that is given, women look the other way, is actually to throw it on the floor. You throw it on the floor for a second, and it's not fresh off the hanger, right? You take your freshly laundered clothing, and this is a sign of avelut, of mourning. You're showing, like, I'm not going to wear a freshly laundered shirt. This is shavua shechalbo, right? And by doing that, it's sort of like getting us into the frame of mind. Now, just to put things into perspective, when someone lost a relative of theirs, so we naturally go into that zone where we understand that this is a time of mourning. We wear a ripped shirt for a whole week. We don't really switch that shirt, and if we do switch it because it got too, uncomfortable, maybe a bad odor, so then we'll rip our second shirt. we understand that we're in a frame of mind of mourning, and part of it is actually the clothing that we wear and where we sit and how we interact with other people. And therefore, the Chachamim, as they're trying to bring an entire nation for 2,000 years while they're in exile during periods of the golden age and during periods of difficult time, and they want the Jewish people in their consciousness to constantly remember the fact that our life is not complete, that it's not in a complete form, that we're still aspiring for a more perfect world with better values, with a deeper relationship with our Creator and with one another, so that there shouldn't be sinas chinam. They incorporated these halachos into our yearly cycle, meaning whenever we have an occasion of great happiness, of getting married, we break a piece of glass, we put ashes on our forehead, of building a new home, we leave a little bit of the wall not finished, meaning there are things that are not complete in our simcha. They added even more these halachos the week before Tisha B'Av, because in order for us to actually feel Tisha B'Av in the most appropriate way, the Chachamim understood that you can't just turn on a button and feel sad the day of Tisha B'Av. They said, let's incorporate those halachos that trigger in our consciousness the feeling of mourning and the feeling of Avelus, and therefore that will prepare us accordingly for the day of Tisha B'Av. And therefore they said this halacha: do not wear freshly laundered clothing. Now here we live in the Middle East. In the Middle East, it gets pretty hot. And when it gets hot and people don't take a shower, we'll speak about showers in a second, and people may not take as many showers during the 9 days, and people are not changing their clothing, so there might be a not good smell, right? A bad odor. It's that there's another halacha. There's a halacha of kavod abrios, which is kavod for yourself first and foremost. You have to make sure to take care of your body, to be hygiene, to be clean, and also kavod abrios for other people. You can't be walking around not being dignified, even though you're in mourning. So one cannot walk around not being dignified and having a bad odor. And therefore, when it comes to laundry of undergarments, which are really the sweaty garments, the garments that get sweaty, that the Chachamim say if you run out of them, one should wash his clothing, because those are not clothing of simcha. Those aren't the clothing that dignify the man. Those are the clothing that are just basic, human hygiene. You wear an undershirt that needs to be fresh, it's for your own internal cleanliness, but it's not something that is about glorifying who you are. Our external clothing, I have a freshly laundered shirt, I'm going to a new business, I'm going to an interview, I'm going to a dinner, right? Those are the things that we normally have give us simcha, and here we're not going to be wearing freshly laundered clothes, but rather something that is washed and worn before the 9 days. But when it comes to the undergarments, one is allowed to, and one should. I have a lot of children at home. They also bring down, when it comes to kids, if you should see our laundry machine, it's on a nonstop 24/7 cycle, right? Because there's constantly laundry coming in every single day from the kids that are Kenai Nahar. They go to play basketball, they come back, they take a shower, they throw it down, they this, and the girls, and that. Sleepovers, unfortunately, the little kids, if they make them in their beds and you have to change the sheets, you've all been through this. I'm still going through this. And it's so that you are allowed to wash during the 9 days. The Sfardim are noeg. This is another place where the Sfardim are making. The Sfardim are noeg when it comes to laundry, just Shavua Shechalbo. So they will still be doing laundry during this week. But Ashkenazim, which is the majority of us over here, we're noeg already the entire week not to wash our clothes. The only thing that we do wear freshly laundered clothing is on Shabbos. When it comes to Shabbos, we wear freshly laundered clothing. It says the Ramah is actually in question about it, but we pass it like the Gon. And there is a question, maybe on Shabbos we shouldn't wear Shabbos clothes, as the Ramah brings down. However, we're knowing like the Gra, knowing like the Mishnah Berurah, that we wear Shabbos clothes on Shabbos, and also if there's a simcha, if there's a bris, if Sanda, Kamol, and then they are allowed to wear their Shabbos clothes. Other than that, we don't wear Shabbos clothes during the week, during this time period. Okay, let's talk about showers. showers also is one of those things that we're more makbid on during the 9 days, especially during Shavua Shechalbo, according to the Sephardim. And there are people who are more in halacha. It's brought down not to take showers, but because again we live in the Middle East, because there are heat waves, because people get sweaty, even though we're not going out as much, and therefore one should try to minimize the amount of showers. And they do speak about if you take a shower, you should take a shower with less warm water. It shouldn't be as warm and as hot and like the refreshing, relaxing shower of the morning. You're like it refreshes you, and you're happy that you took a fresh shower. So those are the showers that we're refraining from during this week of the Tishat Yamim, during these 9 days, and especially during Shavua Shechalbo. We're taking, if one feels that he's sweaty, we're all really in istinus nowadays. And the Gemara speaks about someone who's in istinus. And istinus is, I don't know how you would say it in English, is somebody who is he's very careful about his hygiene. And we all take showers almost daily or every 2 days. It's like rare for people not to take showers. Okay, maybe some of us, I'm not going to call anybody out, maybe they don't take a shower every day, but we take it every other day or every 3 days at most. And therefore, it's hard to go through 9 days without taking a shower. First of all, Erev Shabbos, everyone agrees that you're allowed to take a shower. Some say you could even take a warm shower. If you go to the mikveh every Erev Shabbos, you could go, even though now we recommend not to go because of the coronavirus. But when it comes to showers, we're refraining from enjoyable showers. It's all about quick, hygienic showers. That's what it is. You go in, you go out, and you make sure that you're clean. Before Shabbos, it is important to make sure that you do have it. Again, I'm going to, those are the main halachos of when it comes to the 9 days. Maybe we will do another short halachic shir next week about the laws of Tisha B'Av and the laws of Erev Tisha B'Av and Motzei Tisha B'Av. And this year there's some interesting halachos because Motzei Tisha B'Av falls out on Erev Shabbos. So there's certain things that we normally wait on that we're not going to wait on this year when it comes to Motzei Tisha B'Av. If you remind me, maybe we'll do a shir about that next week if we have time for it. But the important thing is the nakuda that we spoke about here in the middle of this year, and that is understanding the mindset that these halachos are here to create. Halacha is not removed from our values. Halacha is not just a dry thing that we do, and because this is what Judaism does. Halacha is always connected to a set of values that the Torah is trying to inculcate into our consciousness as individuals and together collectively as a people. And it's extremely, extremely hard to keep an entire nation mourning and commemorating something that was lost 2,000 years ago. And the reason why it's important to commemorate it is the longing for its redemption and the understanding of what it represents, what it represented, and what we're missing today. It's hard for us to feel it because are we commemorating a burnt building? So we know it's much more than that. It's about commemorating what this building represented, what it stood for the values that it stood for honesty, for tzedek, for justice, for peace, for wisdom. These are the things that Beis HaMikdash represented. It was the place that housed the Torah, the Sanhedrin, the clarity. If you ever felt like, if only I wanted to have some more clarity with my mission in life, you would go to the Beis HaMikdash and you would have it. And all of that is gone from us. And therefore the Chachamim instituted these halachos. They instituted them so that we could constantly remember that there's something that is missing in our life and we could be yearning for its rebuilding. And that's what we said. Remember, we said this in one of our shiurim. If you mourn over Yerushalayim, not you will see Yizke ve'yireh b'nechamasa in the future, but it says Zoche ve'ro b'nechamasa. Right now, you are seeing the redemption of Yerushalayim, because the fact that we could still be here almost 2,000 years after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, and we're back even in Yerushalayim. Our generation is the first that could say this. We're back in Yerushalayim. We're rebuilding Yerushalayim, but we're still willing to sit on the floor and to commemorate that it's not fully built yet. We're still missing the Beis HaMikdash. We're missing Yerushalayim B'Tifarta. We're missing it in its completion. And some of us, we even question, how could we say Yerushalayim Avela Ve'Hashfuya? And it's true, because on this side of Yerushalayim is being built. We have to remember that the other side of Yerushalayim is still Avela Ve'Shfuya. It's still, we don't have Jews that are walking around in the completeness of Yerushalayim, all around the old city. And even within the old city, there are parts of it that Jews are scared to walk in. It's still Avela Ve'Shfuya. And we're yearning and davening for its full, complete redemption, and for the not just the physical redemption, but also the Yerushalayim Shel Mala, joining with the Yerushalayim Shel Mata, our full clarity in what the purpose of life is all about. That's what the morning is all about. That's what this week is all about. And therefore, we went over some of the halachos. I want to thank Howie for giving me the inspiration to go over the halachos of the 9 days, so that we're able to discuss them. I really appreciate that, because it also gave me an opportunity to go through the halachos and to create a list of the different things that we should keep in our forefront. And I want to wish everyone, normally when we enter a joyous time, we wish everyone should have a Chag Sameach. So this is really wishing everyone a meaningful 9 days, a 9 days in which we could, a little bit slow down and try to understand what is missing in our lives. What could we be zocha to have more in our lives? And even if we don't know the actions to bring it into our life right now, we're able to slow down in our simcha, in our rejoicing, and understand that not everything is complete. And we definitely know that during this year, this is a crazy year to have the 9 days in. The world, in a certain way, thought that we have everything. Everything is in our hands. Everything is in our control. Everything is in our power. And then suddenly the world is brought down on its knees. The mighty China, the mighty United States, the countries of Europe, Israel, the high-tech technology, right? Do we know how to deal with something that is not even visible? And we realize that there's a lot of things that are still missing in our life. And therefore, we have what to mourn for. And if we are on the level of understanding that we can mourn for it, so then may we merit and see the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. May we merit and see that this virus is behind us, and we could get back not just to a normal life, but we could get back to a higher life, to life with higher meaning, with higher purpose, with more clarity, with one step closer, if not the ultimate step, of understanding and recognizing and building that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and seeing Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mehera B'yameinu. Amen. So big yesher koach to everybody. It's a pleasure being here with you today, as it is always, and I hope the halachos and the inspiration gives us the enough fuel to get through the next 9 days. May we be zoche to, I would say, to get through this time period and to see the nechama that comes after this time period.